Yo, ZedRun community, and welcome back, and thank you for all your continued support. The subscriptions, the likes means the world to me. I appreciate it. So it's been a few weeks since I put out a movie, and it's not because I didn't make a movie. I actually created one, and it turned out that I just didn't like the content. I didn't want to post it because I didn't want to look back and regret it. Honestly, it was about 35 minutes of complaining. I was like, you know what, screw it. And I'm really glad I did, because the day that I was working on it, another announcement came out that I liked. And then the next day, another announcement came out that I liked. And I'm like, glad I'm not going to have to regret that. So what I did is I just sat back a little bit, let things develop, wait for the announcements to slow down, the second tournament to go through, the third tournament to start, and here I am again. So I'm titling this episode The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly because, quite frankly, there's a lot of all of that going on. In the past few weeks, there's been numerous announcements that I've liked, and I know that the community has had mixed opinions on, even though I'm not 100% sure on the changes and specifically the order of them. As I've said in the past, I'm happy to see change. We're in the early stages of this game, and making changes to figure out what works best is what is required, regardless of the community's opinions and feedback. So, started off on a good note. To be honest with you, I think the very best thing that this game has going for it is the community. The number of streamers that are putting out content every week on Twitch, on YouTube, inside of Twitter, on Reddit, the community is incredible. For the most part, being genuine and honest, and I cannot get over the generosity of so many of these large stables giving away horses and getting younger stables growing and people into the game who couldn't afford the initial cost of entry. Sadly, I have to pair that now with a bad. The ZedRun development team really hasn't paid much respect to the community. In a few different cases, they've flat out pissed on the community by not telling anybody when the first Netflix race would be run. Not only was coverage of it not available, but many people that wanted to enter the race were not able to. Fortunately, they did do a rerun of it thanks to the community's outlash behind it. Fortunately for me and a number of other people, Sean versus All happened to be streaming at the same time. Somebody mentioned that the race was posted, and we all got to cover it and be part of the hype. But it only happened because somebody in chat said, hey, look at Class 1. There's a really expensive race going on. I think that's the Netflix race. So yeah, they reran it a few days later, but it was just, what the heck's going on? Two more changes that I think are positive, regardless of the overall situation. I think they help at least to figure out where the data stands and how the horses are running. They made two changes. One was adjusting the point distribution at the end of a race, so that first, second, and third are given points, fourth, fifth, and sixth do not, 7th through 12th all get negative points. The way they did it changes the way the upclass and downclassing goes, and is much more expensive to pay for downclassing if you're going to win. It's a -2 to down, +6 on a win. It makes the whole scenario much more difficult. Additionally, they decided to remove negative points from free races altogether. Positive points still remain, but the impact of that is obviously moving free racers from their class up to the next class in each positive result, while not allowing them to stay in the class for any sort of mediocre or negative result. Now, the bad side of that, though, in my opinion, is putting the cart before the horse. See, if that change had gone in prior to the very first tournament, the landscape right now would be completely different, and the results of the first tournament would have been absolutely different. Another good thing is that they reset the breeding fees. Although it's still not great, they did mention that they are going to continue to work on it. Where they're at is just a stopgap measure while the team builds out a better way to go about doing it. So another big change that helps everybody is the fact that Zed is no longer going to take a rake out of each of the races. Now, to pair that with something bad, unfortunately, is where that money is being made up from. And it's obvious that all the tracks have now had race billboards added to them. So we will be seeing in-game advertising. As we saw from the Netflix sponsorship, it came with a big ad on the homepage as well as in-game ads throughout it. And the actual sponsorship really did not help the community. I believe there was 6 stables from the 2 races that made any sort of prize money on it, but of course, they had to wager $3,000 to get into that in the first place. Several people wagered that and got nothing. Most of the community got nothing but inundated with Netflix advertising as we're trying to play a game which we're already paying to play in the first place. Which leads me directly to one of the things that I think is very ugly. So many people are bullish and talk about the long-term future of Zed. The fact of the matter is, this site is a gambling site. On the bottom of the page, there is a little tiny icon that says 18 plus. The ZedRun community does advertise for the game, but the ZedRun team stated outright that they are not. Instead, they're signing sponsorships. This is bizarre because you're not going to go advertising the other way. This is sponsorship money coming into the game to advertise towards the community base that's already playing. In my opinion, the real reason that they're not advertising right now is, yes, the game needs work, but really, they don't want to draw eyes onto the fact that they have a gambling platform here. Eventually, there will be regulation, and we do not know what will happen to it. It's completely unknown. So let's talk about the recent tournaments. The first tournament was essentially run by the most expensive horses in the game. It was to be expected. Thankfully, some people were able to buy inexpensive horses and still run really well in there, and I'm so glad to hear it. But generally speaking, that tournament was run by stables that were in the game years ago and or entered the game recently with a large buy-in. The second tournament, I had so much fun. Arguably the most fun that I've had since my first day in ZedRun. My horse started off really hot. We got 2 wins in the first day and just gave me all the encouragement to keep going on it. I was right at the cutoff line for it to be on the last day. 4 hours to go, and I was still in. 3 hours to go, and I was out. I ran 1 free race, and I won it. Got first place, qualified for the tournament. In the first round, I finished 4th. So I did not advance, didn't get any prize money, but I had a blast, and it did show that they can make changes and have some fun with the tournaments. The third tournament, for the Pity Point tournament, is all geared towards A-shaped racers, the ones that have really never been able to get anywhere, up or down. And it should be interesting to see which horses do well in it. So unfortunately, now I have to pair that with something I find very ugly. And I've said it in the past, I feel that the heritage and the Z rating system as it currently stands creates a triangle scheme. With horses having unlimited breeding and the rarity of the horse being tied to the performance outcome in game, that creates a system where new players will always have to go to the old players and get their new horses from them. Sadly, of course, that leads to market manipulation as well as hoarding of the best bloodlines and not allowing entry into and change into the game. But hey, on the good side, long term, they are a gambling game. If it's embraced, they have a very addictive platform. And as I had fun, I did. I had genuine fun in the second tournament. Hopefully there's a way to keep that growing, allowing more players and bigger communities come in and continue to have fun. Just call it what it is. This, as it is right now, this is gambling. Unfortunately, I have to tie that to an ugly side now, though. Recently, there were accusations made regarding the honesty of the developers. On more than one occasion, they've stated that the racing algorithms have not changed, despite the stamina implementations and so forth. They've stated there hasn't been much change. Community members have gone out of their way to show statistically that this cannot be the case. I don't know how to put it, except for the fact that, as I just said, this is a gambling game. If the rules are going to be changed and the way we need to interact with it and evaluate our horses and our purchasing decisions are going to be changing, then there has to be clear, concise, and honest communication on all across the boards. discreditation of honesty in a gambling game, it is over. Short term, long term, it doesn't matter. Who is going to want to engage in a game where the rules are changing, the developers are not telling anybody, and the folks on the outside are just winging it? And for all we know, there may be community members who are aware. See, I throw on a tinfoil hat. You can start coming up with all kinds of ways that this game can go wrong. Not just ZedRun, but NFT gaming as a whole has a lot of things that we're going to go through in the growing pains of the next few years. What changes are allowed by the development team after users have made purchases or while they're continuing to make purchasing decisions. Of course, they can do whatever, but what find acceptable? These rules are going to continue to be written, and be honest with you, the way ZedRun has done it in the past few months does not go over too well with this guy. I'm pretty sure a few of you that are unhappy with it as well. And that just segues directly into my final ugly. It's just the overall lack of communication by the development team. Yes, we've seen more announcements. The past few weeks, we are getting our articles about what's going on, what they're working on. Here's some new changes. Interestingly enough, the big article that we got back in October didn't have many of the changes that we saw, and many of the things they did say we haven't seen. There's still talk of an ELO system for months. Why are we not testing it? And if we are testing it, why are we not aware of it? See, as I've started to learn more and more about NFT gaming and all these other development teams, I am floored about the amount of interaction some of them have. Coming up with weekly AMAs where people can actually interact, pulling them into voice channels so that the community members can use their words and their voice to ask questions to developers, and developers use their mouths and words to answer them. Honesty, you can feel the genuine nature of those developers. Where is this with Zed? Right now, it's very much just, we are the casino, you're hooked on our gambling, and you're going to play by our rules because this is our sandbox. Sorry, it's not going to fly forever. Everybody who's very bullish on the long term of this game, if that doesn't change, this game is done. I think the game already has a lot of issues to got to get over. It has no skill setting right now, right? If the only skill setting is to wait around and find the best race for your horse, then I'm not going to be able to beat a bot, right? A bot can do the calculations on all the horses a heck of a lot better than me. Sure, I can use external tools such as StackNax and Know Your Horses, but I don't control those. The rules that those developers are changing, I'm not aware of, nor impactful of. And quite frankly, the game itself doesn't provide these. If any of those tools were to fall behind a paywall, we got nothing. The game is not getting in-game development. It's not getting expensive changes. For example, where is the weather? They've talked about this ELO system and new class structure, new tournament structure, and all this stuff. Where is weather? Supposedly weather is going to be implemented and it will fundamentally change the game, flip it over. Why would that not be the top priority? Devs, I want the answer. I want to be able to ask you this and hear you. We need community feedback. You're looking at all your competition, and I'm telling you, they're doing things that we just are not on board with here in the ZedRun community. Most people that haven't left here, haven't gotten involved with other projects, are simply ignorant to it. They don't know. They don't have anything to compare against, so they're happy here, they're happy betting, having fun, and there's nothing wrong with that. But big, long picture, I don't foresee it holding up too well. I can't say I'm bullish and I can't say I'm bearish. I'm just very neutral on Zed right now. I think the fact that they hired a lot of people in October and we're seeing a lot of changes in November is really optimistic. From what we've understand, December and January is going to be a big time. So I'm holding out hope for it. And in the meantime, I'm not investing more money. I'll still keep running my daily races here and there and playing for small wagers, but I'm not going to be buying horses or doing any breeding until things even out a little bit. I just don't want to reinvest in a gambling game where the rules are changing. Okay, this is like playing roulette when you put your money down and then they change the number of zeros on the board. We don't know. We don't know how this racing algorithm works. If I wanted to get really deep into it, you could start making up a lot of conspiracies on ways things can go wrong and ways that things can be manipulated on the backside to favor specific horses, stables, and so forth. It's not pretty picture. And to have a high stakes betting game with so much non-transparency, it's hard to be bullish on something like that. So honestly, before I can say, yeah, I'm bullish long term, 10-year out, I would have to see the racing algorithm actually published, more stats being visible for the horses so that we see what is and isn't impacting it in some ways, so that bots aren't incentivized as it is right now. They've acknowledged the fact that there are bots. They've hired people to address it. We're doing a CAPTCHA. None of the other projects have this. Why? What's going on here? And that needs to be addressed. So yeah, the game has a lot of issues still, and there's a lot of good sides. Most importantly, it's fun, right? Anytime you make a wager and wait for the outcome and you watch a little bar go across the screen, and at the end you're told whether you win or lose, that's fun. It's an engaging dopamine stimulus. Okay, so that wraps it up for me. Hopefully I didn't complain too much. Hopefully I shared a lot of the good side, because seriously, I still like Zed. I'm invested. I'm not trying to trash it, but the future is kind of suspect right now. Hopefully the next few months, all the changes come out that are just awesome. I very much look forward to bringing you more happy, positive outlooks and announcements about all the awesome changes that they're making and how excited I am. But seeing is believing. Right now, the changes I've seen have all been money driven. Implementing skins, in-game advertising. Folks, neither of them are weather, neither of them are ELO or class systems. Those are the things that people are calling for. You're trying to do advertising and generate more money. That's just shitty. So let's see what happens. I love you folks. If you made it this far, please hit that like button. Mwah. I love y'all. Have a great day. And I will see you out there on the track. Good luck in these tournaments, folks. Peace.